Hey,
Hello, everyone,
Well,
and
welcome
welcome back
to
another
another
episode
episode
of
Stacked.
Stacked.
Um,
Today's episode
Today's episode
episode
is
about
about ensemble
ensemble
movies,
movies,
which is
motion
what we are.
pictures.
which is great work. Okay, we can stop doing that. That's a good team building exercise, you know, and I think we did a pretty good job considering our circumstances between sort of internet lag. You know, I bet we've done a much better job if we were all together in the same room. Anyways,
The boys around the fire, the office, are really wild about these ensemble pictures.
yes. Yeah, what he said. Like we said, welcome back everyone to episode 54 of Stacked. We've done 54 of these motherfuckers. And now we're back and we're talking ensemble movies because today a big ensemble movie is coming out into theaters, The Suicide Squad. James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. And there's a lot of heckin' people in that movie. I remember when we saw when they announced the cast and who each character was playing. I thought it was insane. Like how can a superhero team be that big? Obviously it's gonna shrink, you know.
Die.
It's gonna shrink by the end of the movie drastically, but we'll see what happens. Boys, how we doing? Chris, Brandon, you're here. It's a Monday afternoon, Monday night. We're recording. We're gonna talk movies. Now, I do want to ask. Ensemble movie. I think that's another broad term, you know? We had a discussion in the past of I remember, Chris, you asked me that maybe this movie will come up on the podcast today, but you said, is Moonrise Kingdom an ensemble movie? Was that you who asked me that?
I don't know. It might have been, but I can't be sure.
But it's hard to figure out what's an ensemble movie or not because there's multiple players going on at once. So I want to ask you, Chris, what was your reasoning behind choosing a truly great ensemble movie?
For me, it was kind of just the idea for me is that it's just any kind of film that features just the idea for me was really just a cast that is stacked. That's all that I really looked for. I didn't really
intended.
dive into the semantics about what an ensemble is or whatever. I was kind of what's a film that has a cast that is really that is literally stacked, or it's just I don't know. I have a pick here or there that where the cast existence itself is already kind of an achievement. But I'll explain what I mean by that when I get to that pick. But yeah, how about you, Brandon? What did you pick? I mean, not what did
I pick? All right, I picked these three movies.
Three movies.
So essentially, the way I went about it was I looked at the ensemble movies that are of the basic terms. What do you think of when you think of ensemble movies? What's the first thing you think about? These aren't going to be on any of our lists, but I think of movies like Valentine's Day, New Year's Eve, those kind of movies where
the massive
stop. Those are on my spoil my picks.
But no, okay, because it's if you're breaking it down as a genre, right? That's the first type people talk about is those big celebrity cast. Maybe it's they have only small parts in a movie that make up a bigger whole, it's anthological, you know. And I thought about that, so I have one for those. And then you think of big superhero team ups, or even a big movie with just a lot of stars in it, because there's a famous director, so you could see a Wes Anderson movie on here, because I do think those are they're kind of ensemble movies in that sense, because always since Bottle Rocket, I think he's always assembled a large cast that is full of stars that are comedic and dramatic, and it's good.
Since Bottle Rocket, his first movie, ever since he started with Bottle Rocket.
No, after Bottle Rocket, you know what I mean, because Rushmore is his that has Jason Schwartzman and Bill Murray, and I think isn't Tilda Swinton in it or something. Is she not in that one? But she's some people are in that movie. Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny
But
you brought up like those kinds of movies, like the with like the weird like kind of giant ensemble cast where like the stories don't even necessarily coexist. They're just under one umbrella term of like Valentine's Day.
like movie 43 is kind
Yeah,
of
I
an
was just about to say
ensemble
movie
right?
43, a huge ensemble film technically.
Yeah. And we're gonna get into that formula. One of my picks, but I don't want to spoil it, but we'll get into it. And I for me, yeah, I think I went off the same
Robert
thing.
Rodriguez's shorts.
Oh, now that. No, I just like I picked big casts and impressive casts and sort of like how well they mix with each other, you know? I feel like you can have a big cast of a lot of people, but just because it's impressive doesn't mean like the movie's all that great, you know? Like I'm talking Lion King 2019, you know? Like come on.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that cast was like everyone was like, "What? How?" And that movie came out, I'm just like, ugh.
I think it has to be like a number of A-listers or like high-level B-listers that make up like an ensemble cast, right?
Yeah.
Or so many B-listers that it's an ensemble cast, because it's like, how do they get all these people who are usually like secondary?
That is correct. That is correct. So yeah, that's what we did to figure out these stacks. But before we get into our picks, of course, let us go down the rules of the show for the 54th time. Once a week, we set a topic or theme and go our separate ways, construct our own 3-film stack. Then after a week, we come back here on the podcast and share our own stacks, one film at a time. Then at the end of the show, we'll mix and match our 9 films, make the ultimate decision what quintessential 3-film stack we are checking out this hypothetical video store. Chris?
Wait, before we start,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
So, can a movie, and this is just a hypothetical, can a movie not be an ensemble movie and then become an ensemble movie over time because actors become more famous? You know, so the person,
I think it does.
The perspective of the viewer is like, hey, that person's famous to me, even though like Groundhog Day is an example. Like there are plenty of famous actors in that movie who are like not really big roles in the movie, but that have become famous since, or there's something about Mary. And it's like, what?
I actually thought about this as well, Brandon, because there was a brief moment of time where when we got this prompt, I thought of Superbad. But obviously we can't pick that movie because it was selected for 2000 movies.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a good example, I feel like, because a lot of those actors kind of exploded after that movie came out.
Yeah.
But weren't huge prior. So I think that's a good example of like a film becoming an ensemble film without having initially being that.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's an example. But it's also kind of an ensemble just because there's a group of people, a large group of people.
Yeah, it's like
yeah.
It depends how like people interact with each other like in the film, you know, because I thought of one of those too where one of my honorable mentions was Wet Hot American Summer, where that was like a lot of big comedy stars' first films, you know? Like you got Paul Rudd, Bradley Cooper, Amy Poehler. Like nobody knew who they were when that movie came out, but now they're huge, you know?
And going back and watching it, you're like,
yeah, you're like, damn, this is a stacked cast. Subscribe to Stacked Podcast, by the way. Anyways, Chris, what is your first ensemble film?
Cool. This is actually, I'm glad that this topic came up pretty quickly after we did our Origins episode, because mine's actually a sequel to an Origins film that I chose. We talked about X-Men First Class in the Origins episode, so I felt it was a natural compliment to put Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
So when I first saw this movie, other than having read the comic book, I didn't know anything about how this movie was going to go or anything like that, because I had seen the films and read the comic book, but like I didn't have any context for what Days of Future Past was going to be. And it really blew me away. It was kind of like a brief like return to form for those kinds of like X-Men films, because like they're, as we all know, they're very erratic in their quality. But yeah, it had a really compelling story and really excellently choreographed action set pieces, especially that Quicksilver scene, which is like most people will say like that was kind of like worth the price of admission. Yeah, I thought about picking the first Avengers film instead, but I actually wanted to highlight this one because while Avengers like brought forth like 4 distinct heroes into one movie, this actually, at least for me, brought an entirely different timelines and realities together in one movie, which at least at the time, I hadn't seen, and at least to me, I hadn't even heard of as an idea. So, you know, you have like your old, like the old like crew, which was like Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Elliot Page, Halle Berry, and Anna Paquin makes an appearance if you watch the road cut. But then you have the newcomers like James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence, Nicholas Hoult, and I love Evan Peters as Quicksilver. So yeah, it was really cool to me to be able to see all those heroes come together, especially when I was just 15 years old. And like, you know, the classic characters and their modern counterparts interacting with one another. That scene where Professor X and Charles like meet in like a distorted vision of reality. I don't know. It felt like a really beautiful handing of a torch moment, and I think I could have only ever imagined them doing that through an ensemble film. So yeah, X-Men: Days of Future Past. What do you guys think?
Yeah, this is not counting like the solo films. This is my favorite X-Men movie. Not only because I feel like it feels the most like I'm reading an X-Men comic when I see this movie. Like I think the costumes are the best in this movie. Sort of like I love the adaptations of the characters in the like the future world where you got like Storm. I love her outfit in this one. I love Bishop's outfit. I love Wolverine's sort of outfit where it's like it is the yellow and blue. He's not wearing the mask, but he still looks good. And I actually really love what they did with the Sentinels in this movie, where you sort of see the future Sentinels. They're like terrifying. They remind me of like the alien in Annihilation, if you think about it, like sort of like these weird like celestial beings, you know, made out of like this weird material that you soon figure out is this based on the DNA of Mystique, which I thought it was a cool twist on it because it's a good like sequel building off of the narrative of First Class, you know. And this is back when Mystique, like Jennifer Lawrence, still cared about being Mystique. You know, she didn't give up on the role and phone it in. And I think it does it's a good adaptation by like taking what works in the films and what works in the comics and sort of putting them together to make a really cool film. Like I love how it makes sense for them to send Wolverine back. I know how everyone hated how every X-Men film was based on Wolverine, even though he's usually just a supporting character in the comics. But I like how they made him like the central character because it makes sense for them to send him back because his body doesn't change if they send his mind back to the 70s, you know?
Yeah. I do also just like appreciate that, like, because in the Days of Future Past comic book, Kitty Pryde is the one who goes back, rather than Wolverine. But I do like that in the beginning of the movie, you get to see Kitty Pryde do that.
Well, yeah, but she's still the one to send him back. She like sends his,
like she's still
his
part
mind
of this whole
back,
process.
you know
what I mean?
And speaking of this film as an ensemble piece, yeah, I think everyone plays their role correctly. They all work together really well. Of course, we're introduced to Quicksilver in this movie, and I think it's still like my favorite Quicksilver appearance is in Days of Future Past. You know, like everyone will remember the time in the bottle sequence. Like that was iconic when it came out. You know, and just we get interacting with. It was just so sweet to see Wolverine interact with this cast that we've now fallen in love with in First Class. You know. And I think it works really well as an ensemble film. Like it's sort of like it's a multi-level ensemble film because you have two different ensemble casts coming together. So it's like an ensemble of ensembles, you know? And I think it works. I really I love this movie. Brandon, I know you're not too fond on it. So what do you think of Days of Future Past?
I like the movie. It's just like upon rewatch, I think it suffers a lot of issues with the pacing. The road cut is actually better in my opinion.
I agree
because it integrates in like important backstory. I think that the studio probably wanted to cut because they were like, this is too sweaty for us. We just need modern audiences to kind of like get it. And it's not too sweaty. It's just like it's a little bit of a more faithful adaptation of the comic, even though it's like still an adaptation. But as an ensemble, you guys are right. I mean, it's like a film that focuses on two different bigger ensembles and makes a super ensemble film. I think you can make an argument that any superhero team up movie is an ensemble film. So this works perfectly in that way. It's just multiple versions of these characters that we've known and kind of grown up with the older X-Men movies. So you have that sense of nostalgia. And then you have that new stuff, which is really exciting. As a side note, I forgot Peter Dinklage was in this movie until just
now.
Until I'm just sitting
Trask.
I'm just sitting here and I'm like, oh yeah, he's in this movie.
And I think he does a great job in this movie.
He's good. Yeah, he's good. Yeah. I just think the movie as a whole is like, it's good, but it has like so much fan service in it. Like I don't
does, yeah.
necessarily think it's earned like something like Endgame or the Zack Snyder Justice League movie.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah.
I can see that. Okay. Well, there's our first pick. I'm gonna go into my first pick. We sort of already talked about this director at the beginning of the podcast, but I couldn't help but pick one of his films, and I think this film is like the most the most connected ensemble of Wes Anderson's films. I'm of course talking about The Royal Tenenbaums. Now I could have picked like a bunch of other films where I feel like his casts are like stronger, but I feel like this piece is more ensemble where like players that are at an equal level to one another, you know? Like I was considering Grand Budapest Hotel, but I feel like characters don't interact enough with one another in that film. You know, it's usually the two main characters interact with another famous person and then they interact with another famous person. But here, I feel like because this is like a family drama, you have characters like the legend Gene Hackman, Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson, Luke Wilson, Gwyneth Paltrow. You know, who else we got in here? You got Danny Glover. You got, of course, Bill Murray, Angelica Houston, and Alec Baldwin as the narrator. I guess he sort of counts, you know. But I think this is a perfectly casted film to just like create this dysfunctional family dynamic, you know? Everyone plays their role correctly. And also I just want to, did you know that Wes Anderson made the cast of Royal Tenenbaums? He made them watch Evangelion. Did you know that? Because that's one of his greatest, it's one of his greatest inspirations. If you go online and look it up, there's an article where Gwyneth Paltrow talks about how she had to watch all of Evangelion to prepare for Royal Tenenbaums. And that's so fucking crazy.
It kind of makes sense, to be honest.
It makes sense.
The mental torture in that movie.
The mental torture.
But I can't
also
imagine. I can't imagine Gene Hackman going, I'm going to watch this anime.
Yeah, he probably made like the younger cast members do that. I don't think he could make Gene Hackman do it because like Gene Hackman was already on the way out when he was watching this movie, you know? But like, it's just weird that Ben Stiller has probably seen Evangelion. And Owen Wilson's probably seen Evangelion. He's like, wow, yeah, get in the Eva, Shinji, come on, wow, you know. But it's also just cool to think about that. Like, it kind of makes sense by the way that show is like the cinematography of that show and how it's blocked. Thinking about how Wes Anderson makes his films, it's kind of similar, you know, with a lot of still frames and like how characters are placed in the frame. It just. Okay, I didn't pick this film just because I want to talk about Evangelion, trust me, but because I think this is a pretty damn good ensemble film. I just wanted to bring that up because it's like now a new layer to my enjoyment of Wes Anderson's film. So, what do you guys think about Royal Tenenbaums? I know we all watched together in our Wes Anderson class. So, what's your takes? Chris?
For me, like I do really like Royal Tenenbaums. It's definitely like upper tier Wes Anderson for me. It's just like. We've talked about this before where like I've gotten so kind of like disillusioned with Wes as a director and from our little class about him. It's weird that like a class that's meant to appreciate him made me depreciate him a little bit.
But I had the opposite opposite with Karen Kusama.
Really?
Yeah,
you started to admire Karen more.
Yeah.
I had the opposite with both.
I still very much do like Tenenbaums because like and like, you know, Grand Budapest I adore, and Royal Tenenbaums I think is probably his second best, at least in my opinion. And yeah, honestly, like when I watch the movie, I always get such a strong like desire to like talk to my family after watching this movie because it's like it's a movie that like as dysfunctional as it is, you kind of like I think it's surprisingly relatable because it's like a lot of the stuff that happens in this movie is like some of it can get quite ridiculous, but like it's always grounded in this kind of like it's about a family that, you know, has some issues and like might need to talk about it or whatever. And like I don't know,
understatement of the year.
Yeah, I know. But like there's a lot going on in this movie and it's easy to kind of like feel compelled by it because it's an infectious movie where like you just watch it and all you want to do is kind of like witness what goes on, but also like hopefully reflect on your own family and stuff like that. So I think that he does a really good job, and it marries really well with Wes's kind of melancholic but offbeat comedy kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So I think that works really well, especially for a film like this. So yeah, I buy it.
This is the first Wes Anderson movie that, like, if you're going by his filmography chronologically, feels like a Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Because it has, like, the same cinematography and not like the dollhouse sets that you're used to seeing in his newer works, and, like, stuff that is obviously shot on, like, a sound stage or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But is, like, sort of, like, it's framed as such, even though it's like a real building, and there's like a certain quaintness to it. Because with Rushmore and Bottle Rocket, he's very much figuring himself out. He has the quirkiness kind of figuring out there, but like Rushmore just feels like a normal movie with his quirky sensibilities in terms of editing, whereas this actually feels like, oh, this is like the modern Wes Anderson. And it is like very much his first ensemble cast. I mean, it has like 5 or 6 people who are like really big, right?
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, it's not like super giant,
right?
Like a Grand Budapest or a Moonrise Kingdom or a Fantastic Mr. Fox, where every person in the cast is somebody from like a previous film or something like that, which is nice to have. It's a smaller ensemble film in that matter, so I'd still consider it as such, like any Wes Anderson movie post Rushmore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a good choice.
Hell yeah. Well, Brandon, you want to take us into your first ensemble pick?
I know Ethan's not going to like this. I don't even know if Chris has seen this movie. It's a 2003 film. It's British, so you know Ethan's already going to hate it.
No,
it's Love Actually.
No! Okay, go into it.
Okay, so this I love Richard Curtis. He's a very sincere and sentimental director. He's done one of my favorite movies of all time, in About Time. We've talked about it before on the podcast, which came 10 years after this film. And I remember this is just a film about love. It's
Actually.
like literally, it's in the title. Yeah, it's literally in the title. And I remember seeing it for the first time, and it's all kinds of love. It's like sexual love. It's a friend's love. It's like missed opportunities at romance. It's like the magical romance that you see in the movies, all of that is covered here. And it's lost love and tainted love and sibling love. It's all the kinds of love that you would expect from real life captured in one film. And it feels so honest, but at the same time, it captures the magic of cinema, because you've got all these famous British actors in here. You've got Hugh Grant, you've got Colin Firth, you've got Liam Neeson, you've got Rowan Atkinson, you've got Bill Nye, you've got Alan Rickman, you've got Emma Thompson, and then you've got like, I think you've got like a few more actors in there, like up and comers at the time, like Chiwetel Ejiofor, and Andrew Lincoln from The Walking Dead's in this, Keira Knightley's in this movie, and then Thomas Sangster from Game of Thrones later on. And I'm probably forgetting some people because there's so many like famous actors in this movie. And yes, it's certainly not for everyone. It's very anthological. So like there's like, it's not like all the plot lines intersect, although they have their fun moments where characters from different storylines are interacting with each other at the same event. But it's more about this theme of love over Christmas time. And like, as somebody who loves this Christmas feeling and optimistic tone mixed with like somewhat of a melancholic feeling of like loss, because there is that in the film.
Yeah.
I just really adore this movie. Don't get me wrong, not a perfect movie, but I really enjoy it. I really enjoy his work.
As like Ethan, before I let you explode on Brandon,
I'm not gonna explode. Don't worry.
I actually have not seen this movie. I've seen one scene from this film, and it's the one where Andrew Lincoln's holding a bunch of signs.
Cue cards.
So very, very, very cute.
Not in context.
Chris will love this movie. I'm just gonna say, Chris, you will love this movie.
I think I will like this movie because everybody knows I'm a big, what's the word? Simp, I guess.
Chris. No, you're not. You're not a simp. You're not a simp, Chris.
But there's a word. I'm a romantic, I guess.
Yeah.
That's better word.
But so this kind of thing sounds great to me. Like, Brandon, I love when you were talking about like how this film kind of is the idea of encapsulating just the notion of love in the backdrop of a Christmas set film, like that just sounds like wonderful to me. I think that's really nice. I think that's great, and I do think it's kind of unique that they have a whole film dedicated to this abstract idea of love and just trying to like show it in like different formats, and I think that's really great. Obviously, I can't speak on anything else about the film because other than anything that the one scene I've seen, and of course like the concept of it. But I do really like the concept. I have no idea how the execution went, and I wonder if that's where Ethan's gonna tear this movie to shreds. But
this is just not an Ethan movie. Let me get that out of the way.
Yeah.
This is
Ethan,
like
you wanna chime in here?
Okay. Yeah. No, sorry, my thing just froze for a second. This movie, it feels like a really expensive Hallmark movie. Like 5 of Hallmark movies like smashed into each other at once. I will say, all right, I'll say 2 good things about this movie. There's 2 good plot lines that I think are really good.
is it the Martin Freeman one?
No.
Or
It
Laura
is-
Linney one?
No, it is the Liam Neeson one, because I think these are the 2 most different like forms of love that they sort of tackle in this one. It's the Liam Neeson plot line, and then it is the Bill Nighy one. I think the Bill Nighy one is the best one because that one's just hilarious, and how he deals with like his career, and like the love is between him and his producer or his agent, you know. And
Yeah.
I just find that so cute. It's like how he knows he's a deadbeat, and he like that shitty song that he made. That's good, but
I feel it in my fingers.
yeah, that's good. But the rest of the movie, I just find an abysmal train wreck of just like it feels just so fake. It feels fake to me. I don't know.
I
like,
disagree.
Oh, there it is. Ding ding ding. I don't know. It just it makes me feel icky. It makes me feel like I'm back in the pants. It makes me go you know? And yeah, there's I don't know. It's just it's so
for me it's like
it's so soapy.
it's not for me. There is like one that feels inauthentic. It's the Colin Firth one. I
That's
mean,
worst
at the
one.
end,
Oh,
I think it's the one that I like the ending of it a lot because it does tug at the heartstrings, but I feel like it is the most inauthentic, typical movie thing. You'd read it or see it in a Nicholas Sparks thing. Whereas all the other ones, I feel like there is some, like, it's calling back to something. My favorites in there are the Bill Nighy one, which has grown on me over the years. I hated it when I watched it. The Andrew Lincoln, Keira Knightley one, because it is, like, I think very relatable. And then the Emma Thompson, Alan Rickman one. I think that one is very poignant and sad.
I also I hate the Hugh Grant one too. That one's just
I don't hate that
the
one.
Prime
That one
Minister.
just is like
that one's just creepy. I don't-
that feels like a 90s romantic comedy to me.
yeah.
And that's why I like it, because I like it.
It felt like 2 weeks notice. Not because I also had Hugh Grant.
No,
Yeah,
don't mention
like-
that movie.
that movie is. Ugh. But anyways, yeah, I don't know. It's not my thing. You already know it's not my thing, and there's nothing I can convince you for it to not be your thing either. So, there we go.
Yeah,
All right.
totally agree.
Love, Actually. That is the name of the movie. All right, Chris, what's your number 2?
All right, so my number 2 film. So when I was thinking about ensemble films, I finally got to a point where I was like, okay, like ensemble films. I'm trying to think, and I was like, wait a minute. All these films that I've been thinking about have been live action, for good reason. A lot of people immediately think of a cast that is live action when you think ensemble, but I think there's also space for animation ensemble films.
Yeah.
So let me list out this amazing cast for you. I think you might be able to piece it together as it goes along. Jack Black, Dustin Hoffman, Angelina Jolie, Lucy Liu, Jackie
Yeah,
Chan,
I got
Seth
it.
Rogen, David Cross, James Hong, Ian McShane, Michael Clark Duncan, Randall Duck Kim, and in the sequels, they're joined by Michelle Yeoh, Gary Oldman, Bryan Cranston, and J.K. Simmons.
So it's just the first one.
This is just the first one.
Okay.
It's Kung Fu Panda from 2008. It's a ridiculous story, beyond absurd concept, but what it comes with is a surprisingly heartwarming and authentically told story about identity, self-worth, and destiny that resonates surprisingly deeply with a lot of people. One thing I do want to highlight about this film is the craft is incredible. On top of its very tight script and animation style, really honoring the kind of like Eastern aesthetic that they're kind of pulling from. The music is fantastic, Hans Zimmer, and I think there's another person associated with the music who did a really great job. I really think this is a beautifully done movie. One thing I do want to talk about with this movie is like this movie is actually really beloved over in China. It's known in China for being like this like weird random American movie that somehow managed to kind of like encapsulate that feeling of China in such a like interesting and like beautiful way. There's a whole kind of discussion about cultural imperialism that you could have about that. There's a good YouTube video essay that you could look at that. I think it's just called "Why China Cares About Kung Fu Panda." But yeah, like it's one of those movies that I think is just a lot of fun. And yeah, the cast is really stacked. They have pretty much every main player in this film is like a famous voice actor or just a famous actor in general. Yeah, what do you guys think? Kung Fu Panda.
I just like it's DreamWorks and Warner Brothers over people like Pixar and Disney. They sell their films on their voice acting, because I remember, especially in the late 2000s and early 2010s, like the trailers didn't just like, they sold it on the voice acting. You know, they didn't sell it on the story necessarily. Like they'd go like Jack Black, Angelina Jolie, and showing the characters off just so like adults would know, and they'd be like, oh, I'll go to this movie because that's what people need to go see movies, I guess. Celebrity names. I mean, it definitely helps in certain regards, but like that's the case, right? And right. I the Kung Fu Panda movies are some of the best DreamWorks movies and most consistent, I think. The How to Train Your Dragon and Kung Fu Panda movies, because I remember watching all three and being like, yeah, they're all pretty good. And it's funny that you say that it's so appreciated by China and stuff. I don't know, is Kung Fu Fighting a very popular song over there?
Like it was, at least in like for me, like growing up in Hong Kong, it really was. But like, I think it was just kind of like a fun, upbeat song about kung fu. It was never like there was never like a deeper appreciation than this fun ass song.
Okay, yeah. I was just worried, because because it's like
no, yeah, it is like,
does that constitute cultural appropriation from this band or whatever that?
Yeah, I get what you mean, but like at least for my upbringing, there was never really a conversation about that. But maybe some people feel that way. I don't know.
It definitely captures those sensibilities, though, the Eastern like way of thinking around faith and stuff like that. And I don't know if there's any significance to the animals within the film that they choose, like the panda, the mantis, the tiger. I'm sure there is, right?
Like turtle.
Aren't they all based off moves?
There's that, like, yeah. They're animate. But I think like their moves are based off the animal that they chose.
But I mean, there's a lot of thinking that goes into that, right? If you're like a production coordinator or something, and I think that's a deeper level you can kind of analyze the film from. And it is a very heartfelt story. I've never seen. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I just want to say like they have this really funny like ongoing joke throughout this movie where like I think you will only understand this if you speak Chinese. But like characters are sometimes named their title or their animal. So like Master Oogway. Oogway is the word for turtle. So Master Turtle. Master Shifu. Shifu means master. So his name's Master. In this movie.
Yeah?
Yeah. So nice little Easter egg there, I guess.
That's funny.
But, yeah.
Very heartfelt.
This is a one of those movies that on Letterboxd I put as a 3 stars just because I don't remember enough to like say if I like enjoyed it or not, because it's been such a long time. I think I've only seen this once in theaters. I remember seeing it I saw it with my grandma at the dollar theaters, and there was a bunch of kids like running up and down the hallways and like screaming and stuff like that. I remember that really soiled my experience, and I was like, whatever, Kung Fu Panda. But
me with Monsters versus Aliens.
Yeah. Oh, I love Monsters vs. Aliens. Anyways, but like Jack Black was like made for this character, like you couldn't imagine anyone else
so
playing Poe the panda. Like one of my favorite bits is the skadoosh that he does. I remember that was the one that killed me as a kid. Like, I loved that. And yeah, I really want to rewatch this movie. Like, I think I would enjoy it a lot more now that I've like seen a lot more DreamWorks films, a lot more animation, and like, I don't know, have a higher sensibility than I was when I was a 9-year-old kid. But yeah, this is good cast. Like, yeah, this is a stacked like cast. Angelina Jolie, Jackie Chan. I mean, monkey. Yeah,
Jackie Chan is monkey.
It's just, this is one of those movies that you don't realize as an ensemble if you're like not paying attention. Because like you know, Jack Black just stands out so much. Like, you never think of like Dustin Hoffman as like this big sort of as like a big actor, you know, especially a kid. Like, I don't think I knew who Dustin Hoffman was when I saw this movie in theaters.
And, like, the only people who have like really distinct voices besides Jack Black are like
Seth Rogen, maybe?
Seth Rogen, and probably James Hong too. If you know films, I feel like James Hong has a very distinct voice.
If you listen for it, you might be able to hear it. But yeah, it's like Angelina Jolie.
Like
Not really.
I don't know any kid who's gonna be like, oh, I know that voice.
I know her. Yeah, right. I don't know, but yeah, but it's still like they built up the characters quite well with the voice actors, and yeah, I will really want to like. I'm not joking. I really want to rewatch this film now. It's on Netflix. I might do it soon. All right.
I want to watch all three.
I haven't seen the third one.
The second one makes me cry.
Third one's
regularly.
Pretty okay.
I don't really remember the second one either.
The second one's probably better than the first one. If I'm
Maybe
really.
If you guys have time, we could watch it after Kissing Booth tonight. Oh, by the way, everyone, we're watching Kissing Booth right after this.
Yep, that's what we're doing. We're committed to that, aren't we? That's
Yeah.
Unless we veto.
We veto and watch Kung Fu Panda instead, which would be awesome.
No, I veto. I vetoed. I veto.
Damn it! All right.
We can only watch.
What if we watch it after?
Here's my rule: we watch all 3 Kung Fu Panda movies tonight, or we watch Kissing Booth.
It's already 8:00. We're only halfway through the podcast. How are we gonna watch 3 movies? I got work in the morning.
Okay.
Okay, Kissing Booth it is. Shit.
Then
I buried myself alive with that one.
Let's do Kissing Booth and Kung Fu Panda as well. I'll do that.
I'm okay with that. If we can decide this later.
We'll see how long this takes us. So maybe we can try to speed things up so we can do it. All right. My second pick, I had to go with another director who brings in great ensembles. That is Quentin Tarantino. And I wanted to do another one where
of course.
This ensemble like clashes with each other a lot in the film. I went with The Hateful Eight as my second pick.
Controversial.
Controversial? Why is that controversial? Because people don't really like this one. That's right.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
You didn't say it. You just said it was controversial. I don't know. Like, why is there like a controversial scene in it? There is a.
I said it in my head. But
I said it in my head. Okay. Why don't you hear my thoughts? All right. Hateful Eight was a total surprise to me. I remember watching this like not. The only Tarantino movie I'd seen before this one was Pulp Fiction. And I was like, wow, that cool movie. You know, I was like, oh, that cool movie. They say a lot of swear words, 5 stars, you know? And then I watched Hateful Eight and I was like, whoa, this is like a movie. And I did not feel it's 3 hours when I saw. I remember watching this alone on my big screen TV, like bundled up on my couch, and just like the way things like amp up in this movie and the way actors like go at each other's throats when they're trapped in this log cabin together is just so great. So many great monologues in this movie. Like you have like 2 monologue masters in this movie, and that's Samuel L. Jackson and Kurt Russell. Like the way they present themselves and the way they tell stories, like you can't help but feel captivated, you know? Mm-hmm. And then you have, of course, Jennifer Jason Leigh. She is insane in this movie. And Walton Goggins is like...
Walton Goggins.
He is completely unlikable, but like in a likable sense, you know? Like, God damn, you were one of the worst motherfuckers alive, you know? Like, he is just able to play just a fucking... just bitch in this movie, you know? And then you have like Bruce Dern, who's like this really old man. A really racist old man. Then you got like Tim Roth and everything like that. And then you got like surprise cameos. I had no idea Channing Tatum was going to show up for a second in this movie, and then only for his face to be blown off, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I watched this movie before I watched The Thing. So, like, watching The Thing, I was like, this kind of reminds me of Hateful Eight. I'm digging this movie, you know? And now knowing that, like,
it was inspired
that was the biggest inspiration for this movie, and they used the original score to The Thing for this film, I'm just like, God damn, it was meant to be. It was meant for me to love this movie. So, yeah, Hateful Eight. Brandon, I know you are a huge fan of the Hateful Eight. What do you think?
Yep. So this was, I had seen Django Unchained. That was my first Tarantino movie. And then I went back and watched his earlier stuff. So I watched Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, and Kill Bill Volumes 1 and 2. And I remember being like, wow, I love this guy. And every teenage boy loves Tarantino. Like, that's a guarantee.
It's a rule.
Yeah, it's like bound to happen if you watch his movies at that age. So like when I was a teenager growing up, and this was his first movie after Django Unchained that I had to see in theaters, and they had canceled it originally because they leaked the script online.
Oh,
and I was
yeah.
like, did you remember that? And they were like, and they did the stage play, and everybody loved it. So yeah, that they were like, all right, we got to make this movie, and people's dream casts were like coming true for these roles. And he altered the script just a little bit, you know, extended it for this Netflix thing that I haven't watched yet. But I remember seeing this thing in theaters and being like, wow, this is like fascinating and awesome, because I love the Western genre, especially modern Westerns, you know, because they really do things that older Westerns weren't capable of doing in terms of scope and in terms of scale. And I didn't watch the 70 millimeter print too bad, because this is one of the ones that he shot on 70 millimeter, and I'm super sad I didn't.
My parents went to it.
Wow.
And I'm so jealous. And they had like they had the intermission, and they were like giving pamphlets and everything like that. And I'm like, God damn it.
I saw it opening night.
Yeah?
And I remember loving it, and I was like, why do people not like this movie as much? Because it's mostly audiences, I feel like, who don't like it as much, less so critics. I mean, critics didn't like it as much as his other stuff, but maybe you could draw some like parallels to other films from the past, but I think it's a fantastic movie. The dialogue's great, the editing's great. I loved it. It's him up to his old tricks again, and it's a great ensemble cast. You're right about that. Kurt Russell and Samuel Jackson. Walton Goggins steals the show. He's so good in this movie. Even though you hate his guts for 90% of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got a story. The second time I watched this movie, I was just getting off my shift, and I had promised all of my friends from Academic Decathlon, we gotta go see Hateful Eight. They're all big Tarantino buffs. I live in a pretty conservative area in Arizona, or at least the time it was more conservative. And I remember people being like, okay, let's go to that movie. And I get off my shift late. And I gave them passes, and the passes weren't available for that movie yet. So they all had to pay tickets. And I come storming in the movie late, like in my work uniform or whatever. And it's the middle of the Samuel Jackson monologue, where he's telling the story about the controversial story in the movie. I don't know if you guys remember, but I just remember everybody was like loving it, and I was so worried because is it accessible? I hope it is. Definitely was.
Yeah. Chris?
No, yeah. Hateful Eight is like, it's one of those movies I think is like quite underrated. I feel like a lot of people don't give this movie the credit it deserves. And like, at least to me, like, this is my third favorite of Tarantino's movies. And like, I've been like, I don't know how I feel about the guy as a person, but like, I love his films. I think he's a genius filmmaker. But yeah, I think this is a really well done film. The intensity that is brought out by nothing more than 8 people in one house is really, really well done. I can't think of like if we ever did a stack for like movies in a bottle with like one set or whatever, this is top tier for me.
I love bottle
Um,
movies and bottle
yeah,
episodes so much.
yeah,
Yeah.
they do such a fantastic job with it, and I think the cast is absolutely fantastic. Everybody inhabits their role really well. You want all of them to die throughout this movie,
Yeah.
and but sometimes you just want a certain one to die more than another.
Mhm.
But yeah, great
And
movie,
they
so much.
probably do based on
And
how
they
the movie ends.
based on how the movie ends, you never really know. But yeah, I think this is great.
All right. Yeah. Hateful Eight had to include it. All right, Brandon, what's your second pick?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned a Wes Anderson movie because I'm mentioning a Wes Anderson movie. I'm mentioning the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Ooh.
This is probably top 3 Wes Anderson for me. I think
Oh yeah.
it was probably my second or third Wes Anderson film, and definitely my first in theaters because I remember seeing the trailer so many times and being like, to my dad, we have to see this movie, dude. And I mean, there are tons of stars in this movie, and I get your point, Ethan, because I know you brought it up earlier. Didn't want to say anything. That yes, there are characters that just show up for one brief scene, like that sequence where it's like the hotel, like Illuminati, basically all these different hotels, like
Yeah.
he's just asking for like this panache, like perfume as he got out of prison. But like I think that's what makes it charming because like these are A-list actors, and even in some ensemble movies, A-list actors just make a cameo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like think of like a Deadpool 2. Brad Pitt makes a cameo in that movie.
That's not what I was expecting.
The Deadpool 2, the entire Dark Phoenix cast makes an appearance.
Right, exactly. Or like in like the end game, how like all the side actors the characters that were dusted, spoiler, at the end of the movie. You know, it's just that one scene basically. So like for me, I think that's part of the charm of it, and it's probably one of my favorite Andersons, which is why I'm putting it on here. It's hilarious all the way through. I think the story is very touching, and the music in it, contender for best score. I don't know if we even talked about it in our best score episode. I know we didn't choose it,
Right.
but
Yeah.
Alexander
it's so
Desplat.
good.
It's a pretty good one.
Yeah, probably one of my favorite scores of his.
Yeah. Even though I'm
is the man.
Yeah. Like we analyzed the score in my film aesthetics class and how he's able to like do different like leitmotifs for different characters and stuff like that. And now when I'm thinking about our lessons, like of course it's a fantastic ensemble piece. Like I just said that just because I considered Grand Budapest Hotel, but I decided to go with Royal Tenenbaums. But this is an ensemble cast nonetheless. This is probably Wes Anderson's funniest movie. I just think
Yeah.
Ray Fiennes just has the most killer lines. Like, just the way, like, oh, she's been murdered, and you think I did it. And he just runs away.
He just runs. It's
I
so
fucking
good.
love that.
I love seeing that, and just every time I see that scene, I look at it and I think in my head, that's Lord Voldemort running
Yeah.
for his fucking life.
It's so weird that he's Lord Voldemort. And just like every time they get punched, there's so many times people get punched in the face and they get up with one bloody nose, like just one stream of blood. It's just so good. It's so clever how he's able to frame each narrative and do that with aspect ratios, you know? It just you can just tell there's so much passion and dedication put into this film, and you can tell there's so much passion and dedication put into the casting of this movie because the way he cast each character perfectly with someone who's famous, which just makes it such a great ensemble cast, you know? Yeah.
It's like
this is-
every role, somebody who's famous, you know?
Yeah. This is fucking fantastic. I remember I was such an asshole.
Lucas Hedges is in this movie, and
I know, he's like a
big role.
baby. He's a little baby in this movie. By the bike. He's like, "Eh." That dude kind of burned out, though. I feel like
Yeah.
it was after Ben
Boy,
is home.
Ben is back. Ben is
Ben
back.
back. Everyone's like, all right, he was just going off the Manchester by the Sea hype, you know, and he kind of burned out.
Boy
Anyways,
Erased, mid 90s. Yeah.
it was weird. Yeah, fucking phenomenal movie.
Chris, did you say?
Yeah.
anything?
No, yeah. I think Grand Budapest Hotel is easily my favorite of Anderson's films. It's one of the ones that like genuinely gets like an emotional reaction out of me whenever I watch it. And like I I've like I said, I've kind of like grown a bit desensitized to Anderson, especially like his kind of like quirkiness and like the kind of like kitschiness in his films. But like for this film, it works so beautifully. I think
Mhm.
on top of everything you guys said, which I all fully agreed with, I really just love the overall craft of this film. The amount of precision that it takes to do the things that they did in this film is like it's kind of understated because it's like you're kind of like outside looking in on this film and you're kind of framed as kind of like outsider observing. But like the production design in this film, like that shit is amazing. The color paletting is incredible. I think they do such a wonderful job with it. I'm trying to think what else like I can highlight that you guys haven't talked about yet, but it's so magical and so like kind of whimsical. It has this kind of fairy tale fun vibe to it, but it's still like grounded in on this level that like keeps it emotional and real to us as human beings.
Yeah.
It's like a
Yeah,
fairy tale book, right? Like it is based
yeah,
on a book, but like on one hand, it has that like it's like a fairy tale, but the characters act like real people. You know
yeah,
what I
Mhm.
mean? Like Ralph Fiennes, the way he speaks in this movie speaks like somebody from the modern day, which grounds it.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely do agree. This is just a wonderful, fun movie. I
Tony
completely get
Rev,
it.
Tony Revolori. I don't know how to say his name.
Tony Ravioli or something. I don't know.
Just
Tony
gave
Revolori.
us that talent. Yeah, thank you. Gave us this talent. I will say this,
Yeah.
Ethan. I'm gonna be shocked if we don't double stack.
We're not gonna double stack. You haven't
Okay.
seen my last movie. So get
What?
shocked.
Brandon is
Get
officially
fucking
shocked.
shocked. All right, Chris, let's get into the last round here.
Okay. So, my final pick is a film that actually meant a lot to me when it came out in 2018. Um, it is, I think this is the immediate thing that's going to give it away. So, the ensemble cast existence, I remember I talked about this briefly in the beginning of the episode, was a foundational moment for in the history of modern
Oh,
filmmaking.
yep. Okay.
It is the first American studio film with an all Asian cast since 1993, which was 25 years prior to this movie coming out. Brandon, I know you definitely have figured it out. Ethan,
Yeah.
you've probably figured it out. Yeah. Okay. It is Crazy Rich Asians, starring Constance Wu, Henry Golding, Aquafina, Michelle Yeoh, Gemma Chan, Ken Jeong, Jimmy O Yang, Nico Santos, Chris Pang, Sonoya Mizuno, and many more. But none more important than prime now man himself, Ronnie Cheng.
Prime. He's in this
Prime-
movie? I had no
Yeah.
idea.
He's one of the cousins that she gets
Yeah.
to meet. He's a really
my God.
like dickish, like
Wealthy.
wealthy, dickish, like Hong Kong.
That's
He's from
so
Hong Kong.
good.
Yeah. Great movie. Anyway, yes, Crazy Rich Asians. The cast is absolutely stacked. It is literally most of, if not all, of like the modern like comedy Asian actors. Um, and yeah, so okay, let's think. Atop like a lot of like the kind of like style that is kind of shown off in this film, they don't restrain very much. They're very much like let's kind of indulge in kind of like the fun luxury of the upper 1% in this world. So like you get these really decadent, beautiful sets and everything, but behind all that, you have this really wonderful, heart-wrenching family drama that goes even further beyond like the economics that surround the film itself. Like there's like yes, the film is about rich people, but it's about one girl who is thrown into that world all of a sudden. Um, I'm not going to get into this whole conversation about the economics of wealth and stuff like that because at least within the context of this film, that doesn't really matter that much. What this film is really more about is about sociocultural politics and the role of family, specifically in regards to its central character played by Constance Wu, Rachel, whose identity as an Asian American puts her at odds with her significant other's family and her own sense of identity. So like throughout this film, basically throughout this film, she feels consistently displaced, never really fitting in with people in America because she's Asian, but never really fitting in Asia because she's Asian American. She's someone who kind of just innocently found herself in this difficult to navigate world, and like, you know, obviously a very material world, one that's kind of like the entire family is scrutinizing her this entire time, and it's beyond her control, and it commentates really beautifully on like the archaic traditions against like modernity and external influence. Yeah, like, you know, on the surface, right, this film does seem like a very standard, straightforward romantic comedy drama, which yes, it is, but it's elevated so much by such a poignant story about the modern world and intersectional identities. And like, honestly, this movie, I think another part of its significance is that it was one of the big blockbuster films that came out recently that have really dismantled like that Asian stereotype.
Yeah.
You know, there's that as we all know, there's the whole stereotype of like, you know, oh, Asian guy in your film, got to be a nerd, got to be the computer hacker, got to be, you know, like the Fu Manchu.
There's no math
kind of
in this movie.
Yeah, kung fu. There's no kung fu. There's none of that. It's like it's very like authentic depiction of what it is to be Asian American and what it is to be Asian, and they do a really great job with that. Brandon, I know you've seen this movie and I know you like it at least pretty well. Ethan, you have not seen this movie. I really want to see this movie.
I'm waiting to see it with you, Chris.
Yeah, all right, we got to do this sometime soon.
Yeah.
But yes, Brandon, since you've seen this movie, what do you think?
I remember seeing the trailers and thinking, this looks shit.
No, the marketing was god awful.
The marketing was awful. It was like stereotypical rom-com, but it highlighted the sidekick instead of the actual story. And this was at the time where Awkwafina was just starting getting into Hollywood. And I know it was like not super long ago, but like 2017, 2018, like, and they were highlighting her character. And I'm like, I've got fatigue. You know,
I feel like this was the movie that like I had no idea who she was before this. Like, I had seen. Was she in before?
Okay, she was in the Oceans movie.
Was that
she was
before
in
this
Oceans
one?
8.
Okay.
Yeah, it was before this one. And then there was, I think, wasn't she? I feel like she was in like one of the Pitch Perfect movies, right, Chris?
Pitch Perfect? No, that's not her.
Damn it.
No, that's not her.
Okay.
She was this came out. Well, the year before she was in Jumanji. No,
yeah.
she was.
No,
in
that's the year
too.
after. That's the year after.
She wasn't even in the first one. Was this her big break?
No, I don't think it was because I'd seen her in things before.
Was she on TV before?
She was in Neighbors.
Yeah.
Is that the Seth Rogen, Zac Efron?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I was very annoyed with her in the two movies that I had seen her in previously. So I was not looking forward to it because the marketing highlighted all of her character. And I really liked her in this movie. And I really liked the main story behind this movie. Because when I went to see it with my sister, I think this was... we went to see it right before I went back to college. I think it was summer of 2017? 2018? What year was it?
This was 2018.
2018.
So yeah. The summer, the week before I went back to college for sophomore year, my sister and I saw it at a theater, and it was like nobody was in the theater, but we were sitting there, and I was like, this is actually pretty good. And I had seen the critics liking it or whatever, but it feels fresh and brand new. And it, like Chris says, it reinvents and ducks stereotypes of Asian cinema, like what you're used to seeing. And yes, it still has some tenets of it there, like with themes of family and stuff, because I feel like that is a very universal theme. But in the Asian films that I had seen previously, like that was already like a big portion of what those films were about. And so when I actually ended up seeing Crazy Rich Asians, I loved all the characters in it. I loved the comedy in it. The romance is very touching. The relationship between Henry Golding and his mother is very interesting. Yeah, I loved it. And as far as the ensemble goes, like I feel like the ensemble's gotten better because representation for Asian Americans and Hong Kongers and all of, like, you know, imports, I would say, are becoming more Well, it's true. They only act. They're only acting.
I've just never heard that word, but I get what you mean.
But that's what you call foreign actors.
Like,
have you never heard that before?
Feels derogatory. I don't know.
It's not.
Yeah.
No, British actors are also called imports. Did you know that?
I know. I'm sure. I'm sure there's
just the
I'm
way
sure
you
it's like
imports, and I was like,
I place an order on Taobao.com. Got Henry
my
Golding.
mail order bride.
But like
my mail order flight from
we know
Vietnam.
we know
My
you.
import.
I didn't say they were products. I'm just saying culturally they are imports. And it's like interesting to see all of their stock rise in Hollywood, because truly the only people I knew before going to see this movie were Michelle Yeoh, because she's a legendary icon and she's been in a lot of Hollywood product, and Ken Jeong, because he was in the Hangover movies. I had only seen
Ken Jeong.
I had never seen Ronnie Chang because I didn't watch The Daily Show like religiously, so I never saw him on there. And Constance Wu, I maybe caught her on one episode of like Fresh Off the Boat, but like she plays a very different character in that movie, so I was like, or not movie, show. So it's like I didn't really recognize her when I went to see this movie, and I'm so glad that I did, because look at how many stars we have from it now. It's an ensemble cast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I haven't seen it. All I can say is I love Ronnie Chang, and I think that what's his name?
Gemma
Snake
Chan's-
Eyes. What's Snake
Henry
Eyes?
Golding.
Henry
Henry
Golding.
Golding. That dude's a fucking hunk. God
Oh,
damn.
that's a
Oh.
good looking man.
That dude is a beefcake. That dude's a what a
Chris,
cross.
What a slice.
Chris, we saw this together once, right? I'm pretty sure we have.
We
right?
watched it together once, but the first time I watched it, we were separated.
And I remember when we talked about it, we were like, it's weird that they actually, and it wasn't just because he was Asian. It's because they often in movies, when there's a romance, they'll show a guy taking off his shirt and he'll be like cut.
Yeah,
You know,
but
he's
like, Henry
not
Golding's
cut.
he's like reasonably cut.
He's like
not
normal. You know,
like he's not like Henry Cavill. He's not like Channing Tatum, but he's like he's still like a what a slice of
He's
a man.
a slice. What a
an
freaking
absolute
beefcake.
slice.
And I appreciate that he was somewhat normal. You know, his face was attractive and obviously his voice, but like it was like it was great. It was great to
Oh
see.
yeah, Henry Golding's British/Australian accent. Mwah.
It's good.
Yeah. So that's all
Wish
I
it
got.
didn't
to say.
show up in
Okay.
Snake Eyes. I wish it didn't show up in Snake Eyes.
That dude needs to be a superhero. He needs to be in a Marvel or DC movie. Who would you cast him as?
It's now.
You
If
know what
Namor
I
wasn't
would've
already
said?
cast, I would
have cast him as Batman. I think he
Asian
would have been
Batman?
a fantastic Batman. He has the build for it. I don't know. And just like the way he like scowled and stuff and Snake Eyes, that's what I would have done personally.
I feel like if Shang-Chi wasn't, I feel like he could have been casted as Shang-Chi, but Simu Liu is like really good. I watched a few episodes of Kim's Convenience, and he brings like a grounded nature to that.
Yeah.
How about
Yeah.
Hulk? Like as in Amadeus Cho.
I think he's too old for that. Like Amadeus Cho, he's a young guy.
Yeah, that's true.
Like he's on the Young Avengers, you know. So he's got to be.
And I think you could like swap characters like in terms of like race, so
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. Like to me,
That's true.
like obviously like not Black Panther, but like
Why not?
don't want to get
but
into it.
Recommendations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta
Alright.
check it out. I gotta watch it with you, Chris. Okay, my last film is a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. Now, Chris, you and I were talking about this the other day about sort of like this philosophical concept that kind of just blows our minds about how we as people have our own life paths and narratives, and the concept of them crossing, meeting, and then going off, and knowing that there are 7 billion people who have their own worlds like going on at the same time right now blows my mind. So the movie I want to talk about that I think perfectly captures this with a crazy good cast is his 1999 film Magnolia. So the film Magnolia is a film about coincidences, right? Um, it tracks these multiple characters. You got Tom Cruise, Philip Seymour Hoffman, William H. Macy, John C. Reilly, Julianne Moore. Let's see. I'm trying. There's more that I can think of. But yeah, it follows these characters, and it's sort of like Love Actually, where it's like it's a web of stories, like different plot lines about these people, like just doing something. It's so different from the last. You have John C. Reilly, who's a cop, and he's not a really good cop, and you don't know if he really likes being a cop, but he's lonely, and he gets himself involved with this one, like this coke addict who falls in love with her. He tries to like hang around, date her, and then you have Philip Seymour Hoffman, who's a nurse, and he's going on a quest to find this dying man's son, who is Tom Cruise, who is like this piece of shit dude who has written like this book about like picking up chicks and being like an alpha male, and like you follow his life. And then Julianne Moore is like the wife of this sick dude that Philip Seymour Hoffman's like taking care of, and she has her own thing of like just her being depressed and stuff like that. And then you have William H. Macy, who's like, he used to be like claimed as the smartest. No, not a piece of shit. He used to be like the smartest kid ever, you know? And now he doesn't have like the funds for like this oral surgery and stuff like that. So you follow him. It's really so hard to explain this film, but like the concept of watching these people occasionally cross paths, keep going, but you're still in these different worlds, you know, it blows my mind. And one story that this is what I wrote my Letterboxd review on is the night I saw this movie, the moment before I saw this movie, I was driving down the street with my dad, and we were behind an ambulance, and in this ambulance was this old woman, like surrounded by what I can assume is like her friends and family and some like EMTs, you know. And I was just thinking to myself while I was watching this movie, I'm like, what is the story that's going on in there, you know? Like, is this the climax of whatever was happening? Is this the end? Or is this like the beginning of something that's going to ramp up to be much worse? And you look at people's lives interacting with someone, whether that be like the cashier at a grocery store, like what's their whole deal? What's their whole life about? There's a whole cast of characters that they interact with that you have no fucking clue who they are, you know? And that's like the kind of things this movie brings out when you watch it. And it's 3 hours long. But PTA
it's on Netflix now.
It's on Netflix. PTA makes it feel like it goes by in an instant. I highly recommend you to watch this film because it blew me away the first time watching it. It is definitely, I keep going back and forth of whether this is my favorite PTA. Like this one, The Master and Boogie Nights, it's like it's always rotating between those three. I just don't know which one it is. But Brandon, you've heard about this film. Punch Drunk Love, that one's good, but I don't know, it just doesn't crack the top for me, you know?
It's a cathartic movie.
You like watching Adam Sandler scream at Philip Seymour Hoffman?
Yeah.
Fuck you!
I was so good.
Yeah.
As somebody who works...
somebody who works what? No, you go.
Nothing to worry about.
Okay.
I mean, as somebody who's worked in customer service, I mean, it's very...
Oh, yeah.
Memorable. I mean, even though it's not like a customer service thing that they're yelling about, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So yeah, what do you think about Magnolia? I know you haven't seen it, but
I mean, it's one of my biggest blind spots in terms of film because I feel like Magnolia, Scarface, Heat, and maybe in terms of modern film, like the John Wick movies are like my biggest like empty spots, you know, because everybody talks about those movies. They're like the highest watched movies. They're the highest like rated movies that I haven't seen from like the past 25 years. And for good reason, right? I mean, I'm looking forward to it because I think we all three of us kind of got blueballed by our first Paul Thomas Anderson movie that we watched. I think we all watched like Phantom Thread first.
I saw The Master first.
Okay, well, I saw Phantom Thread first, and I remember not liking that movie very much, and
I not like that movie either.
And it's like it's an interesting concept. It just takes way too long to get there, and then also it's like, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
But like everything that I've watched since, I've liked a lot, or liked at least a little bit. So I've liked There Will Be Blood. I liked a lot. The Master I liked, but I have problems with it. But I love Boogie Nights, and I love Punch Drunk Love. So his early work is really what is like really big to me. So this fits in among those. So I'm really looking forward to it for that reason. I don't know what to expect. I've seen images from the movie. It looks kind of crazy, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Chris,
I don't know what else to say.
What's your thoughts on Magnolia?
So I have not seen Magnolia. I've only seen I've only seen 3 PTA films, which are There Will Be Blood, Phantom Thread, and Punch Drunk Love. And like so far, I have really liked all of them. Phantom Thread is okay. But I'm not gonna talk about Phantom Thread right now. But yes, I do think PTA has like such a interesting like style, because it feels like all of his movies are like somewhat different. I can't really lock down how to describe this guy as a director.
He's very all over the place. He's kind of a chameleon.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, like Magnolia, Ethan, like you said, we talked about that philosophical concept about like that existentially philosophical concept of like the flow of experience of time and like reality and shit like that. And I love that idea that he kind of like took this idea of like multiple branching like individuals who are seeing the world through their own lens and often might not even interact or whatever. And like I think they do a really great, like I haven't seen it, but I think like a film like this could do a really great job of depicting that concept. So I do admire that a lot if that's what this film is going for. Just have yet to see it. So yeah, but I love the concept, and I just looked through the cast, and yeah, pretty stackerinoed.
Pretty stacked cast, if you ask me. All right. Well, Brandon, you want to wrap this up with your last pick that you apparently thought we were going to double stack, but maybe not.
Well, it's funny, it's just funny, we both chose a Wes Anderson film, and now we're both choosing a PTA film, because I'm choosing 1997's Boogie Nights.
Really?
By Paul Thomas Anderson. It stars Mark Wahlberg, Julianne Moore, Burt Reynolds, Don Cheadle, John C. Reilly, William H. Macy, Heather Graham, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Luis Guzman, Philip Baker Hall, Thomas Jane, Robert Downey Sr., Alfred Molina, just like the hits.
Just the hits.
So it's like this movie has an even more stacked cast than Magnolia does. And not only that, it's a great film about the porn industry and about like film in general. There's a lot of real life parallels between like sex icons in the film and like sex icons in real life, which is really interesting to dissect. It also isn't like, it doesn't fantasize it as much as it like demonizes the industry. Like it kind of plays both sides to think about it, and it shows like the fun and the downside of it all, And I love that. It's a funny movie, it's a touching movie, it's a sad movie. It pulls from a lot of different Hollywood films in the past. Ethan walked in while I was watching he walked in the house while I was watching a documentary about nudity in film, and he walked in during the Boogie Nights section of the film, where they're sort of talking about like the importance of that movie, and the ending of that movie, because the ending is very nudity based for what happens. And there are so many things that are coded into the film, if you are a film lover, that you see like references to previous films that, and I mentioned to Ethan, like this doesn't only make sense, but it totally helps to have seen like 3 or 4 other movies to get this end scene. You know what I mean? And I just love it. It's probably my favorite PTA. I said Punch Drunk Love because I wanted to throw you off the trail, so I don't want you to guess what I had.
Yeah.
But this is definitely my favorite. When I saw it, I was like, this is a fantastic ensemble movie, and I have to mention it here.
Yeah. I should have got that. I should have picked that.
I thought you were gonna double stack, and then when you said PTA, I was like,
I really wanted to talk about the concept, the philosophical concept, and how that's explored through an ensemble cast in Magnolia, which I still think I would have included that, but maybe I would have just done 2 PTAs. I don't know. Like, Because this one is better than Magnolia. Like, it's just
Dude.
so. Okay. This dude was 26 motherfucking years old when he made this movie.
He was 4 years older than us, right?
He's
now.
as old as my sister. No, 4 years. Wait, no. She's 25. He's a year older than my sister when he made this movie. And that, like, this feels like one of the greats made it, you know? Like
Like
this
a
feels like
Scorsese.
Scorsese made this movie, you know?
Yeah.
And just the way he's able to track the movement through a scene, you know, especially when there's a big party scene, you know, like the first time Mark Wahlberg goes to one of the parties at Burt Reynolds' house,
Yeah.
and then again
Yeah.
at the New Year's party,
Yep.
where the
Later
big
in the
thing
movie,
with
yeah.
William H. Macy happens. That
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
caps off the party. Just the way he's able to direct the flow of conversation, of the feeling of going to a party, you know? Because, like, I felt like I was in this situation when I go to college parties where you just walk around the house, you know? And you just, like, sort of go into one conversation. Chris, you kind of talk about this whenever we have get-togethers of the pods of conversations. Like,
Yeah.
something's happening each thing. This is what he does, and I think he does it better than anyone. Better than Robert Altman. Better than...
Yep.
And, like,
And
it's
I
just...
love Altman. So
And it's just amazing how he's able to go from, like, Mark Wahlberg talking to John C. Reilly, like Burt Reynolds talking to what is it? He probably talked to
Philip Seymour Hoffman, maybe? No, he didn't.
no,
talk to
Philip
him very
Black
much in the movie.
Philip
But
Baker
yeah,
Hall.
Phil Baker Hall. Yeah.
And then, you know, Don Cheadle over on the other side of the room, and then of course William H. Macy. It's just it's so good. Chris,
Yeah.
I think
this
you'd love it. You'd love it.
this
Chris,
movie is a comp. Sorry.
Yeah, we were about to bring up the exact same thing. Chris, if you like The Nice Guys, if you like The Big Lebowski, it's sort of just like grounded absurdism in the Los Angeles, in like the history of the
that's
film
fun.
industry in Los
In
Angeles.
the
you know?
70s. The 70s,
And
yeah.
it's kind of noir, you know, kind of neo-noir, but
Yeah.
um
It doesn't dominate the movie.
no, it doesn't dominate the movie.
But
at
it's
all.
like I would say it's like an Altman movie mixed with like Goodfellas and Dazed and Confused,
yeah. Like
which is kind of a weird comp.
each
but-
scene feels like the club scene in Goodfellas where they're going through the
Goodfellas.
kitchen, you know?
Yeah.
He
Every scene feels
he
like
is just
that.
the master of the long take and like making you not notice cuts at all, you know? It's phenomenal. Chris, you got to check out this movie.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this like everything you guys said has been amazing. I've heard about this movie so many times. I've heard it's beautiful and like not beautiful but amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm like scrolling through this cast list right now on Letterboxd and I'm like, man, really just the hits, literally
Don
just
Cheadle.
the hits.
This is probably my favorite Don Cheadle performance.
Yeah,
in a movie.
the donut shop scene. Come on, dude.
It's so good,
It's
dude.
so
Like-
good.
Can I just say something kind of weird that just happened to me?
Yeah.
I'm looking through Boogie Nights like cast right now, and I'm scrolling. And I get to the actress that plays Little Bill's wife. Who Little Bill is William H. Macy's character.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, I recognized her for some reason. I'll leave it at
yeah. Leave it at that, buddy. I didn't want to.
Oh, did they
they?
I'll cut this out. Did they cast
Or porn
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Real life.
they cast
And
real-
they did that in the Swedish movie I watched at Sundance, the Pleasure movie.
uh-huh.
They did the same thing with like Kendra Spade. She's in that movie, like as a like normal cast member, not just a porn star.
Interesting.
I love that. It's interesting, the porn stars.
It's interesting. The porn stars.
I've heard cut this out as well. I heard Julianne Moore is also
Yeah, she's
revealed
topless.
in this.
Yep.
Wow.
Oh,
She's not only topless in this movie.
she is the best she's ever been in this movie.
Oh
Like,
wow.
physically. It's just you're just like, God damn.
She's better than Big Lebowski.
Is
which
it
came
better
out,
in Is she better in this or in Gloria Bell?
better than this because there's more.
Well, no, you're talking about
Yeah. Well,
and
not
then
about that.
also
she's
Heather
younger this
Graham,
movie,
too.
but like she's still kind of a MILF, you know?
yeah,
Mm.
like literally, dude.
Literally.
Come on.
Like
But
the scene-
Heather Graham in this movie, whew,
Yeah.
sheesh.
Shisharoni indeed. All right. That is a fantastic way to end this stack, Brandon. So before we get to pick in this final stack, let's go through each of our picks one more time. Chris, do you want to start us off?
Yep. My films were X-Men Days of Future Past, Kung Fu Panda, and Crazy Rich Asians.
And my films were The Royal Tenenbaums, The Hateful Eight, and Magnolia.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon?
Yeah. Yeah, cool.
All right. We're not going to pick
No, wait.
films.
No. Hold on. I forgot my first movie.
Love Actually. Yeah, it's a forgettable ass fucking
thank you.
movie.
No, I forgot my second movie too. All right. Love Actually, Grand Budapest Hotel, and Boogie Nights.
Dude has the memory of like a fucking pigeon. All right.
Only when I'm on this podcast. It's because I have a deer in the headlights. I'm literally looking at my light right now as we're recording.
Don't stare into the light, you
Oh.
dingus.
I'm seeing spots now.
All right, I have a pitch.
Okay.
All right. So, I think I think Boogie Nights is a must be on this. It's just the way we gushed
agree.
about it.
Yeah.
I think we
should
do have to
an
pick.
animated.
I think we should. Yeah, I was gonna say I think we should have a Wes Anderson, and then I think Kung Fu Panda would be an awesome pick because
Yeah,
we
either
didn't talk about like animated ensemble cast. You know,
I thought about Lego Movie, but I forgot if we chose it.
Yeah. I feel like I would,
Yeah,
like,
I don't think we did.
I'd probably use them equally. It's just like Crazy Rich Asians and Kung Fu Panda are both films I can imagine putting in different kinds of stacks. Like they're not like
Right.
it doesn't feel like this is like they're meant to be for this, but like they both work really well.
But remember, there's 2 other Kung Fu Panda movies.
That's true. I agree. Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah, and then oof. Do I want to forfeit this episode?
It's up to you, bud.
I very well could. You know what? No, I think we can use Grand Budapest Hotel again. I think we can use it again for something else. You know, there's so many things
I
to
agree.
unpack with that movie that I feel like that can be recycled again. So why don't we
I
go Royal
agree.
Tenenbaums and Boogie Nights? What do you
cool
think,
with that.
Chris?
I'm cool with that.
Royal
Royal
Tenenbaums,
Tenenbaums,
Boogie Nights, Kung Fu
Boogie
Panda,
Nights, Kung
and
Panda.
now we'll think of an order.
Okay. Yeah. So
Okay.
what should the order be then?
I think we should go smallest ensemble to biggest ensemble because Royal Tenenbaums first, smallest ensemble. Then
I think Kung
I
Fu
don't know what's
Panda is
bigger.
smaller.
no.
Yeah.
All right, then we progressively get more mature because
Yeah.
you got your Kung Fu Panda, which is a kids movie. You've got
The kids
Royal
can go to
Tenenbaums,
bed
which is
early,
adult.
you know?
Yeah, then you watch the adult Royal Tenenbaums, and then you watch the extra adult XX NC-17 Boogie
Yeah.
Nights.
I like it.
Okay. Yeah. You progressively just get more.
The Royal Tenenbaums, Boogie Nights, and Kung Fu Panda. That's the kind of shit we pull on this show. That's right.
That's like
I'm not ashamed of
depression-
it. Fuck you. This is the kind of movies you're watching when you listen to Stacked.
Depression Sex Edition, Panda
And a
Magic.
Panda who can fight. No, this is a good movie about self-love, which is what you need when you're watching
After
depression and sex addiction. You need self-love, you know, and
Well,
believing that you.
Boogie Nights
Kung Fu
kinda
master.
is about self-love if you think about it.
It is, but
Only if-
the characters don't really achieve it. I would say.
Yeah.
But is the road trip because of the journey or the destination? Should we get back to this discussion?
No. Okay. This I love this stack. Oh my god. All right, let's run it down. This is Stack's official ensemble cast movie final stack starting with Crick. Crick? Yep, down that's how Utahns say creek. Did you know that? Down at the crick. Chris, start us off
We
with
say
our
Oak
first
Creek?
ensemble.
Our first film is a 2008 animated film directed by Mark Osborne and John Stevenson titled Kung Fu Panda, an incredible movie about self-love, identity, and acceptance in fate and the future. and has an incredible cast of characters and actors, and honors the Chinese aesthetic that it goes for beautifully. Kung Fu Panda.
And our second film is by one of the most prolific ensemble cast directors, that is Wes Anderson, and probably his first foray into the ensemble cast, which is The Royal Tenenbaums, a movie about a dysfunctional family where you get A-list actors cast into each roles in this expansive, rich family. And it's one of his first greats, you know? And I feel like you gotta check it out. The Royal Tenenbaums.
And our last film is Boogie Nights. The
Yes.
best Paul Thomas Anderson movie. A great ensemble piece about the porn industry, the goods and the bads. And honestly, a terrific depiction of sex life. I highly recommend you check this out. And I hope you have a good time.
My original review for Boogie Nights was going to be the same one I did for The Human Condition 3, where I just said, this happened to me once. Yeah, I went into the porn industry because my massive cock, yeah, you know.
Yeah, But also, let me tell you something. I feel like I say, and our last film all the time. I'm just good at picking finales.
You are, that's true. We should have a compilation of you saying, and our last film. All right.
That is true, yeah. You
Brandon?
really do, like, you always say, you're always the one to say it, and our last film.
What can I
I
say?
feel like I'm usually first.
You're good at beginnings, and Brandon's good at endings. So, Brandon, why don't you end this episode of Stacked for us? You have the floor. Say your piece. Say your goodbyes. This is your last episode. Say your goodbyes.
I had a great
Brandon,
time.
I want you to imagine that I'm firing you from the show after this episode. What would you say if you knew this was your last time on Stacked?
I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity that I have received to co-host and co-create this podcast. But now that I'm getting kicked off,